last time?
We're good.
Can you check the seat?
Shannon can. Shannon can check on her phone
Check
to
to
make
see
sure
if
it's
you're
coming through. All right, toast. All right, welcome to Blunt Force Business, our live YouTube podcast. I am Brian
Why are
LaFauci.
you whispering? Why are you doing it like a bedroom voice?
Welcome.
He does that voice around me. That's just our voice. You know, I'm sorry.
Welcome.
I don't have the relationship with Brian yet for the bedroom voice.
Well, yeah, you and I are loud in the bedroom. I'm Brian LaFauci.
Patrick Marino.
And we have Shane Matlock with us from the Burgundian. We're actually coming to you live today from the Burgundian. And today we are going to talk to you about how to build brand ambassadors. Because Shane, you've done a phenomenal job with that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So let's dive right in like we always do and get right into our blunt force facts for our podcast today. So blunt force fact number one is we always come back home.
Yeah, so the idea is if you have an environment that people want to come back to, you got that, we've been talking about welcome mats. Got the welcome mat, people are always going to want to come back, and that's what we built here at the Burgundian.
At the Burgundian. Blunt force fact number two for today is authenticity breeds loyalty.
One of the cool things about this place is it definitely has a brand. You can walk in, you feel the brand, and the more you are true, and this was very much Shane's vision as well, as he's described it to us. So you definitely want to have that, be true to yourself, because then you separate yourself from everybody else, and then people can identify with what you're trying to create. And the more you stick to that, the better off you're going to be long term.
Isn't that a Journey song? Be true to yourself.
It is a Journey song.
As Shane knows, I'm a great singer.
I know you're a great Journey singer.
I was saying, be true to your school. It's like you were.
All right, blunt force fact number three. Before we lose.
Don't let these two.
This is what happens when you go live. Live is a mistake.
Blunt force fact number three. A connected community is drunk by 8 a.m. Just kidding. A connected community keeps the lights on.
Yeah, so I mean, like if you want to have a sustainable business, especially in an industry like the restaurant, where you are very likely to be closed in a few years, you want to make sure you have a bunch of people who are into it, right? And so you create like a community where they feel like they're part of it and they feel like they're involved. Now you've got support through the thick and thin, the ups and downs of your business.
Awesome. You know, one of the reasons why we chose to come here to the Burgundian today is Shane, I've known you for a long time and seen your growth. And one of the things that you have done a phenomenal job is building brand following and what we would call like brand champions and really just getting people to love what you provide. Now, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience, and then we can kind of dig into this topic, and you can give us the secret sauce of how you use these three key elements to kind of make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. So, Shane Matlock, I don't know if you want me to talk to the camera or not.
Yeah,
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Talk to your hands.
Yeah,
Talk to your coffee cup.
you know, Shane Matlock, of course, I own Burgundian in downtown Attleboro. I'm an Idaho kid who joined the Army. I'd always had a dream of opening a coffee shop, but I wasn't sure when that would ever make its way. You know, 9/11 really impacted me, so I decided to become an officer in the military. Bounced around. I had the unfortunate position of being stationed in France for a few years, and I just really fell in love. One of the things that the French
One of the terrorist hubs during the fight in Afghanistan.
France has its issues. You know, one of the things they do well, unlike you know, winning wars, which they don't do very well. But one of the things
Who knew that this was the direction this was
I
going
know,
to go?
right?
This is what happens when you go live.
Yeah, this is a complete aside. This is live. This is a fun. We used to show. I was stationed at a NATO base, and we would Google French military victories. I feel lucky on Google, and it would say nothing found. Did you mean French military defeats? And it was great as a U.S. military to share.
I mean,
that
all of
with
our
them.
French followers are going to
There's one guy.
Yes,
and he's on my wall at my house.
Yes,
For
François, je suis désolé.
For the under 5 foot club, my man Napoleon, he did some stuff.
Yes,
did some stuff.
But one of the things that I really love about France, about Europe in general, is this all-encompassing. A lot of times we call it cafe culture. That it was this lived-in, beautiful expression of a culture beyond what product they were serving. And that sort of romance and lifestyle of you'd go there and you'd get your coffee in the morning, and people would be sitting and reading their newspaper, and their legs would be crossed, and there'd be baguettes and whatever, and they would have lunch, and you'd have, you know, nothing fancy, but this great meal, and then you'd come back at nighttime, and they'd have wine, and they'd have different food, and everything was this experience in this one spot. and it was just this beautiful place that I really miss. And so so as I came, I really wanted to provide this experience, especially in Attleboro and some of these towns outside of Providence and Boston, where you don't see that type of community focus and location. A lot of people sort of forget about this low-hanging fruit, if you want to call it that. And so I moved to Attleboro, and I wanted to open a shop like this. But what I also realized is I didn't know a damn thing about opening a restaurant or being in the industry. And so I was luckily able to, and I know you were part of that help of pulling myself back and really building a foundation and a grassroots kind of movement on what I was doing. And so I started with a very low budget. I went to Home Depot, got a $90 tent, and started going to farmers markets selling my famous, now famous Liège waffles. These street food waffles in Belgium, which is what we're still known for. Yeasted dough, pearl sugar, caramelized on the outside, just fantastic. And so I went to Belgium, I learned how to make these waffles, and then I just started slowly building this following. I partnered with other brands, I collaborated, I started really building my group, my fanatical fan base, both locally and kind of regionally, in about a 30-mile radius of people who they would come to breweries just because we were there. They would find us. They would want to buy waffles to bring home. And so I really built that out to where, it took 4 years, and then we were able to open up what was always my dream, my first brick and mortar location.
So a lot of organic growth that led to support, that led to when you were able to open a brick and mortar, at least having that feeling of, all right, I know people are going to show up.
Yes,
because they've been showing up now for years. One of the things that I noticed, and Patrick actually pointed out, I've always been impressed with the way people follow you, engage with you on all of your channels, whether it be social media, but Patrick pointed out the number of reviews you have on Google as a true testament to people willing to say, hey, this is great. Just engage with you in that fashion. And he asked you today, and I thought I knew the answer to this. He was like, so what are the things you do to promote that? And because I thought for sure it was a system.
There's a restaurant in Providence that's got 1,000 reviews, and I know how they do it.
Yeah.
When you order a dessert.
Yep.
At the end of the meal, they say, if you leave us a 5-star review, we'll give you a free dessert.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They have 1,000 something
reviews.
You know what I mean? And I have clients. Reviews are super important in terms of ranking. And I didn't necessarily know, I tried to not make assumptions, because obviously you've got this community that you've built, and I didn't realize there was such a background to it. So I think that's a big part of it, right? It's like, we talk about it all the time. We're going to go on social media and we're going to explode. We're talking about basically almost 7 years of loyalty, right? So it's not and then the idea that you build the audience and then you sell to it as well, right? And
absolutely.
it's you've kind of done all those things, and it's not been overnight. But why don't you go ahead and speak to it
I think real quick, I think that's one big piece, especially that I would give to any restaurant. Anybody that's wanting to build and get into the food industry, sometimes people want that overnight success. These restaurants go in, and like you said, there is a very high failure rate, because people want that overnight success. And if you want to be in this industry, you don't do it for money, because you're not going to become a millionaire overnight in the restaurant industry. But if you go in and you really build that foundation out, that's what's going to sustain you through these ups and downs, through COVID, through everything else, is building that foundation. And every single person that wants to open a restaurant, I say, start with building that foundation, garnering that support before you go into a neighborhood and open up. Because if people don't know who you are, New Englanders are really a tough sell. I've had people say, yeah, we kind of want to give you a year before we come in and visit you. Like, why would you do that? We're a local community place. But they say, we want to see you survive. But for us, we already had that foundation, so we knew our success on Launchpad was a lot firmer than a lot of other people's.
Yeah, there is such a high failure rate, but also I love that you started. This brand has existed. The brand predates the restaurant.
Yes,
the brand
absolutely.
is everything, right?
Right.
We talked about.
Yep.
If you want to have a brand champion, you got to have a brand.
Yeah.
Right, and then people believe in the brand, and people believe in these Belgian waffles, which is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you think about the blunt force facts we kind of kicked in there, the ability of you to kind of just be authentic and obviously the core is you got to have good shit, right? So we start there.
Yes.
If you
That's
have
important.
garbage, if you have garbage product, all this other stuff doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right? So we
Yeah.
get let's lay the foundation there.
Yes.
Okay, but there's a lot of good product out there.
Yeah.
And people don't get the engagement you get, right? And so you obviously start with a very strong product base. But I always love the way you manage and engage your audience on social media is just having known you. It's just here's Shane.
Yeah.
Like here's Shane. And the other thing that I really love is they get to see here's his team and the culture of his team.
Yeah.
Like how,
That's-
how do you? Some of that I know. Well, a lot of that is conscious.
Yeah.
And done that way. How do you make sure that gets like put at the forefront?
Yeah, I mean that's everything that we say, everything that we do is about creating that community and culture both for our guests, but also for our team and for our employees. You know, I want our employees to embody being a Burgundian. I want them to know what that is because if they don't embody it, this has never been a place where you just show up, get a paycheck, and leave.
Yeah.
You know, we have always been striving. We don't always hit on it, of course, with every employee, but we strive, and everybody that we continue with is coming in, almost adapting and becoming part of this. A lot of our team actually they were previous customers, and they said, we want to work here because this is a different environment than what we're used to, and we want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. That's what people want. They want a purpose in their job, and so just being able to create that here and have internal brand ambassadors as employees, that by itself is a huge measure of success for us.
That's an awesome recruitment strategy. We have a lot of our listeners and a lot of the people I talk to that I work with that have a HR concern. And what a better way to well, where's your recruitment? Well, it's right there.
Yeah.
The
Talent.
customers are
Yeah.
the recruiting.
Yeah.
You know,
Talent is a problem everywhere right now.
Right, right.
There's a lot of open positions, right? There's not
Yeah.
enough people to fill them.
Yeah.
And especially in this type of environment, how often since the pandemic still, how often you go into a place and you're just waiting and there's not enough help and whatever it is. So, talent's a huge issue.
And I'll tell you, we've had a couple periods where again, even in the restaurant, we've had to figure out, who works, who doesn't. Do people live up to our company values?
right.
But through that time, we are trying to find hours for our staff.
Yeah.
We're having to turn away good people because people want to work here. Luckily, thank God, we don't have a talent issue anymore. We don't have an issue with anything around employees. It's how do we find more hours? How do we continue to garner more business so that we can help these people flourish?
Well, I think that's where a lot of businesses go wrong is that they don't build the infrastructure that is welcoming and engaging for an employee.
Yeah.
They look at it in the reverse way and they say, I'm going to hire the right people, and then that'll create the culture. Whereas as the owner, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You have to create the culture so that the minute someone steps into it, they feel embraced by it, a part of it, they relate to it. I'm reading a book, Traction. You talked about
love
before
Traction.
the pod. Yeah, so
Love Traction.
It was funny. I was
We're
on
an
a call-
EOS team.
Yeah. I was on a call with this guy, and I read a lot of books, and he mentioned that book. I hadn't read it yet. And he's like, so what's your what did he say? What's your take on EOS? I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. He's like, based on what you do and the way you like to run your companies, you need to read that book. And that night I downloaded it. Very, very good. But one of the back to the point there, one of the key pieces there is getting people engaged from like a mission vision standpoint right out the
Correct.
gate.
Yeah.
You have to give them something that they can relate to,
Yeah.
buy into, and then one of the things that we like to do in our company is create and Patrick and I have done a lot of work on this is turning a why, like the why of your business, into like a tangible how and what.
Absolutely.
So if the why of our business is like you said, all right, we're community focused. Well, what's the deliverable of that?
Yeah.
That gets felt in the community.
Exactly. So when we bring people on, this has really been one of my main pieces this last year is ensuring that I'm really instilling what is my mission? What is my vision? Right? Our vision, you know, in 10 years, we're going to have multiple locations. We're going to be impactful in multiple communities that are revitalizing themselves. We're going to provide that third place for people, right? So when we talk about our mission, our internal mission, to share the world with the local community through food, drink, and conviviality. One of my very favorite
What
words.
is the word conviviality?
Conviviality. It's
For everyone else. I know what it
surprise,
is.
Is that French?
It's surprise. It's French. Yes. So conviviality, convivialité. It's this sense of festiveness and belonging, often around food and drink. Right. That's what Burgundian means as well. It's all these different words that take this environment, this sense of belonging, this art of living well, all through this festiveness that is surrounded by food and drink. The food and drink is a byproduct of that, right? But it's creating that environment where you can enjoy those things with other people, with the community. That's what conviviality is.
Love it.
What's Burgundian mean?
So Burgundian, it's similar to that. I found the name in this Belgian beer book. It's a name that goes back hundreds of years when the Dukes of Burgundy, Mary of Burgundy, reigned over Belgium, parts of the Netherlands, and northern France, where I lived. And it was the golden age of Belgium. You know, all the money coming in from England was coming through this area, and so the Belgians, after that all fell apart, Belgium, you know, was its own country. They sort of adapted this name of being Burgundian, this hearken or calling back to this time. And so the quote was the love of food and drink in both quality and quantity. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is mine. I wrote 2009, sitting down, writing the book down in France. Like, I'm going to use this name Burgundian. So I started asking people, and that's essentially what it was this lifestyle of eating and drinking, not worrying about weight, not worrying about, oh, I should watch my cholesterol or anything like that. It's just the health and wellness that comes from sitting down and communing with other people and sharing, breaking bread, and enjoying that kind of lifestyle. So that's what Burgundian is. It's if you go over, you ask them, they'll tell you of their own variation of the Burgundian life or Burgundish life.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Can I ask you? So you obviously, one of the coolest things about this whole conversation is just how. I mean, we're talking. It's 2024, so we just went back to 2009, right? So this is not not an overnight success, even though we've only been a couple of years. Which I think again, like how many people have started a business without 15 years of thought, right? You know what I mean? Like very few, right? So it's like when you start a business. But in terms of like you eloquently stated your mission, you used fun words. How is that something that's explicitly in here anywhere? Like, is there like a guidebook for people? Do you communicate to people like when you talk to them for the first time? And there's no right or wrong, but like how I'm just curious in how you translate some of this mission and values to your staff and to the business at large.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that a lot as a staff. I still don't. They haven't gotten to the point where they could recite it word for word. That's one of my next goals. But we talk about that a lot. Whenever we have job descriptions, we list our mission on the top. All of our job postings, we list our mission at the top. Whenever we talk about what food are we providing, what are the drinks that we're providing, when we make new cocktails, when we put out specials, does it live under that umbrella of allowing people to travel through their food and drink? Are we sharing those things with them? When we talk about music, you know, we do international music. We don't play local U.S. music. We don't play, you know, eat random just American food, because that's not what our goal is. Our goal is to allow people to kind of travel and do that. So I do harp on it quite a bit with the team. We really put it out. I wouldn't say it's direct in terms of the community as much as they know when we go in. You could go ask them like, okay, what is Burgundian about? It's like, oh well, we have Liège waffles, we've got street food, we have coffee, we have craft beer from around the world. You know, that's how we communicate it through there. But
very cool.
It is very, very close, very touch point on making sure people know when you come in here, you're almost taking a trip somehow to somewhere else, and yet you're still feeling like you belong. If that makes sense.
We talk about hospitality too as like a big piece in getting people to care enough to like leave those reviews and be part of the community. How do you recommend companies really try to create, like when you walk in the door, how do you make people want to stay, bottom line? What are the components that go into
I mean, a lot of it is the little things. Obviously, you just create the environment. You want them to walk in and go, wow. You want them to see something, and that's.
Well, we got all these wonderful wood tables. Brian's already got one.
Yeah.
His eye on
Yes,
one
he
for his
does.
home.
If
Yes,
I
he
could fit
does.
one on my shirt, it's coming out.
One of
with me.
these wood tables wouldn't even fit into my house. My house is so small. But go ahead, continue.
No, but it's creating that. It's making sure. I mean, I tell my team, every single person that walks in, make sure that they're greeted, make sure that there's eye contact. Whenever we take an order, we ask for their name. We ask for the spelling of their name. Oh, is that Sarah with an H or no H? Little things, Megan with an H or no H. How do you spell? Those teeny little details, that right there just secures it. It allows us to go above and beyond.
Right.
Because hospitality a lot of times is those little niceties.
Yep.
You know, it allows people to remember they cared about me enough to ask how to spell my name. I mean, some people like John H, no H, who cares?
Right.
But the people that do care, they really care, and it means
Right.
something to them. Like,
Well,
oh,
I think
nobody's ever asked me that.
It also goes to that theory of how the research shows that waiter tips go up dramatically when a waiter repeats your order to you instead of just saying okay. Like when you order with the waiter and then they go around like, okay, you got this, you got this, you got that act has because it creates a connection.
Yes,
You feel like, all right,
Do you ever see the SNL skit with Kevin Nealon where it's like the waiter who doesn't really remember anything, like,
Yes.
and he walks away and they're like he doesn't write anything down.
Yeah.
Like, you got all that? He's like, oh, I got it. He comes back with something totally different. And
No, I did not
like, next time, why don't you write it down? And he's like, no, I got it.
Yep.
He comes back.
I love that one.
Sorry. I'm the one who drops the bad
the random
references.
Saturday Night Live.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. No, that's good. So the opposite of that.
Yeah, the opposite. We're going the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Is what we try to create. I like how you brought in the decor piece of it, because I think that's a lot. I mean, that is a lot. It's making, we spend a lot of our time at our place of business, right?
Yep.
This is your home.
Yeah.
In essence, I would be willing to bet waking hours you are here more than you're at your own house, and most of us
Here or at the sports fields with my kids. Yep, that's
right.
it. That's
Those
that's
two
where
places.
I live before my house.
Right,
Yeah.
those two places. So making, the importance of making an environment that makes people come in and feel welcome and breeds a sense, like the little things matter.
Yes.
That was a big piece I felt. That resonates with me. We did that a lot in the sport complex. Like if I would walk in the morning and the music wasn't on or the TVs weren't on, like little things that seem stupid.
Yeah.
That was a big deal to me.
Yeah.
Like that stuff has to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because that's what'll make people walk in and not feel like, is this place even open? Or you know what I mean? Like it's bring liveliness into
Absolutely.
bring-
I mean, even now, sometimes my team, depending on the briefs, I'll be like, hey, the music needs to be a little louder in this corner or something, because we want it to be just comfortable enough. We don't want it to feel like a morgue where they feel like they're on display, but we also don't want it to be intrusive to where they can't have a conversation with somebody. And that's absolutely, I mean, there are so many little details that make people belong. And even then, we're doing a little renovation just to even bring that piece out a little bit more.
Right. What are I know the lighting was something we had talked about in here a
Yeah.
bunch.
Yeah.
Because and how important that is, right?
Absolutely.
And how same thing, like with making things feel like home. When you go into your evening menu and you do weekend nights, and it has more of like a social, it transitions a little bit. Changing the lighting, changing.
We got these really cool little, brass lamps where they're LED, but you hit the button, 3 different settings, they can go up or down.
Yeah.
So at nighttime, again, you can create that more intimate, where all the lights are really darkened, and you have these lights on the table, so people can have cocktails, they can have drinks, they can listen to karaoke or whatever it is,
right?
And they feel a lot more intimate. That's the nighttime vibe. Yep, absolutely. Those little details, and what are the details important in the morning versus the nighttime?
Right.
Absolutely.
Creating a home away from home
Yes,
for
that's
people.
it.
I have a question about because this is so. These lessons will serve anybody in any business, right, for the most part. But in terms of like the restaurant and maybe like just people who sell products in general, you've got this really big idea. The big idea is we're doing food. We're traveling around the world with food, right? So, and I remember that already because like it's so well communicated in everything that you do. How do you then like decide, okay, so you've got how do you keep it from being the Cheesecake Factory,
Yeah.
where the menu is a book. It's like Italy freaking like
Yeah.
like what? How do you make menu decisions to kind of communicate what you do without being overwhelming to either the customer or either to your business?
Yeah, I mean, and it's very much about street food a lot of times. So one that's able to, because if we just did food from around the world, the number of menu items
Yeah,
is
unlimited almost,
already
yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, again, is very, the brand is very tied to myself, right?
Yeah.
It's very tied to where I've traveled, where I've been. So a lot of the food that we do is really tied to, okay, Shane's been to 40 countries. What are some of the things that I've experienced that I can bring back? Because there's a story behind that. Everything is very much about the story, the experience of, okay, let me tell you about the Argentinian choripan from when I was in Buenos Aires, and I was walking around La Boca, and I had the old guys that would sit and make these chorizo with chimichurri dogs. That's a story, that's a piece for us. And
Right.
so those type of things make it on the menu. So
And
that's
I think
really how we
that
kind of
plays
scale that
right
down.
into our blunt force factor and authenticity, right? I mean, if I tried to do that, I could be. I mean, seriously,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know why you're laughing. Go fuck yourself, Shane. It's like the Tom Brady roast. Fuck you, Tom.
That was way too blunt.
Yeah, but I like how you chuckled. But if I tried to do that, we could take two entrepreneurs
Yeah.
who understood systems and all that. But if I tried to implement that piece, I have never been there. It would not come across with the
wouldn't, yeah.
authenticity of the feeling of, the flavor or seeing what went into,
Yeah.
how that got made. Or there's just a lot that goes into that. Or the subtle hints that you said of, okay, maybe as you change your menu from month to month, maybe the music changes, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the
Yeah.
music changes to feed into the
Oh, yeah.
atmosphere
And when
we're
we
trying
do
to
when
create.
we do special nights, beer dinners, if it's a theme, if we do a German night, I mean,
Yeah.
the music will be a representative of that. We did a Duvel beer out of Belgium. We did a beer night, and all the music that night was Belgian jazz, which I didn't even know that type of thing would exist. But we went and found this great
fantastic.
station.
Whole staff
It's
was dressed
very-
like Nazis.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys not do that?
Oh, yeah.
German
no,
thing?
no, that was
Sorry.
different. Sorry.
It's a different type of
Different
German.
era, different German era.
Yeah.
More like with the suspenders like Chevy Chase
Yes,
wears on
that's
your
right,
European
yeah.
vacation.
But creating the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Creating that whole environment. Again, it's all it's the connectivity and it's about, okay, if we're doing a German theme or we do a Belgian month or something like that. So when we do from French Independence Day to Belgian Independence Day, it's a week in July. We do different, we call it Frangem days, and we do different food and drinks, but we make sure that there's a coffee or two. We make sure there's a cocktail or two, that the beer, wine, food experience is all connected between those. So people are getting to experience it not just on the food, but then, okay, what is front of house creating to make sure that there's a representation of that.
And I know I keep bringing it up, but back to the authenticity piece, what resonates with me right now is how you integrate the language into it too, because language is such an important part of everything, because words, certain words translate more than just the definition. Like you said, right? There's a culture behind a word.
Yeah.
Right, where it has all these intertwined meanings.
Yeah.
So when you,
I mean, even just us, right? We spend like a lot of time trying to come up with the blunt force facts.
Yeah.
Right? It's because we're worried about the words.
words matter.
Words
Yeah,
matter.
they do.
Yeah. So if we're so intertwining the language into the whole atmosphere creates the authenticity of the
Yeah,
atmosphere,
absolutely.
without a doubt.
Yeah, you want to have
Yeah.
a voice.
I
You want
feel
to
like-
have, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I mean, the voice and the way that you would say something has to fit with the brand.
It really
right? So
does,
it's like
yeah.
everybody could say this. We sell Belgian waffles.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? You're not the only
Yeah.
company that does that. We're not the only restaurant. It's the only place we get it. But like how we say it, the ingredients, the way that we describe the dish, like all that has to fit into
Yep.
the story, right? And
Yeah.
you use the word story. We've got a story here. We've got like a book.
Yeah.
Here's the book of the Burgundian, right? It's almost like you can picture what the book would look like just
Yeah.
based on the conversation we had.
Right.
You know, like the storybook, you know what I mean? Like with a certain type of fonts.
Yeah.
You can tell, and it's all throughout the spot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's very intentional in that way of I love stories. Sometimes I go a little too deep into stories on everything. But I love a story behind what I'm getting, because to me that makes it less transactional, and it becomes more of a connection. And that's what I'm always trying to get to is what is the story that allows people to almost adopt the brand themselves and want to be part of it and want to learn more, want to crave more, want to experience it. And so I think that's, going back to your initial question, why do we have so many great reviews? I don't go after reviews. I don't ask people. Obviously, I love great reviews, but I don't ask people for reviews. I've asked a couple times, maybe I think just making sure you say, hey, if you leave a good review about our karaoke when we were just starting out. Outside of that, I've never asked it, because if I focus on that, I feel like I will be focusing on the wrong thing and not the brand and not the culture. So if you focus on the culture, if you focus on creating that unreasonable hospitality, that community for people to belong to, where they come in, obviously you have to serve a good product. People will want to go and beat the drum on your brand. And so you don't even have to ask for it.
And it's also built for years.
Yes.
We're talking about this community that Shane has cultivated personally for years, which I think is important.
Yeah.
We talk
You
marketing.
say it all the
Yeah.
time, dude. Don't chase the likes.
Yeah.
I mean, you say it all the time.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's like,
And it's tough sometimes to not.
It is.
I mean, it depends on the business too, though, right? Because like, there's this well-defined community that's been built through Shane over these years, right? So when we're consulting with businesses, sometimes you don't have that luxury, right? So we're starting from like, why didn't you get reviews?
Right.
Well, let's make it easy for a review. Like,
Right.
like let's follow up. If I've got a contractor, he's putting a business card with a QR code in the person's hand at the end of every freaking transaction, and saying
Right.
like, hey, we'd love, because it supports the business.
Yeah,
I mean, in a competitive
absolutely.
world like that.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's like a different
Right,
approach.
but it's all these other things that gets that customer to care enough.
I think
to
you can
do
do
the
both.
thing.
Yeah.
I think you can do both.
No,
If
you
you're
definitely
just
can.
building,
You
like,
definitely can.
especially like if you don't have the luxury is the complete wrong word, because that discounts the hard work. But like, you've got so much in this now. Before you even opened, you had this whole track that you've built. So like, for the person who didn't have that track that they built, I think we can do both. I mean, I think we can ask, but I think that I don't want to step on the points though, because the points are tremendous. I did want to talk a little bit about marketing though. So like, you do. So what are your channels right now? Is it just organic word of mouth at this point? Organic word of mouth, even technological word of mouth, or like, what are the marketing channels for the Burgundian right now?
Right now, I mean, we barely put any money to a posted ad here and there. Everything is social media driven posts, and then we have our mailing list. That's one thing for restaurants, having toast. It's wicked expensive, but we have a great subscriber list, and so we are able to push marketing out to a lot of our thousands of subscribers whenever we have events and things like that.
Is it fair to say that you built that list even since like back when you were using here at 10?
No,
or is
that's just been internal.
Okay.
Here. I mean, we of course we built our social media following, right?
Right, yeah.
We're about to hit 20,000 on that. That's been built over years. That's been and I could go into that whole system that I did to even launch that off.
Well, let's talk about that, but let's go back to what you just talked about to clarify. So Toast is the POS, right?
Yeah, that's our point of sale system.
Yeah. So somebody comes in, they create an order. Do you ask for an email address?
We do. It does ask. Yeah, it will ask for an email address.
Yeah.
Sometimes credit cards are already attached to a. So if you have a credit card, again, that's one thing Toast does very well. Is if your credit card is attached to an email address, and you go to one place, you go to another place, it's already linked into the cloud of Toast. So that does it. And our website as well. We sign up for a website, Spot Hopper, for any restaurant that's out there. It's fantastic. But again, you look. I don't know if you. I think you guys looked at our website. Really nice.
And we'll
laid
link
out,
it.
but
We'll link
pops
it in
up.
here as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll pop up and say, subscribe, and so that gives us another
How
access.
often do you send emails?
Usually once a week. It depends. We don't do it as consistently as we should on just generic information. It's much more about events.
Right,
So,
so you've
to
got
make
your-
sure people know what else is coming outside of our day-to-day. Hey, we've got the Mother's Day reservations.
Yeah.
So we were absolutely booked out, insane in here on Mother's Day. We're going to put one out for Father's Day. Hey, we have a Cinco de Mayo brunch. Hey, this beer dinner's coming up.
Right.
That's when we send it out. Because I don't like receiving too many emails from businesses.
Right.
I'll unsubscribe if I get too many. So I try to be methodical enough that it's proper information that drives a specific event. That's how I look at it.
You did mention it, so you must feel like it's important.
I do, absolutely. Yeah, I do think it's important, and especially whenever, if we don't send out an email on some sort of event versus when we do, the data's clear for us on how beneficial that is.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then did you want to maybe, you did talk about your system, social media system, so maybe
Yeah,
we
well,
get into
and just kind of how we built it up. I mean, I think sometimes this goes into people wanting to do things on their own as well. And I was really, as you know, I asked for a lot of connection, and I'm just a social guy generally. So whenever I started, I don't want to say I used it for just a selfish gain, but I found other businesses that I wanted to partner with from the start. So PV Donuts, Revella Bagel, Rogue Island, Bayberry, the multiple businesses, Borealis Coffee, of course, where I would, Trillium, the Guild, where not only would I set up there, but we did different events. We created products specifically as a combo to where I called myself a barnacle a little bit, where I would almost glean on to other people that had a great following. And again, not in a I want to use you, but let's do something fun and limited, because that's what drives people. And so I was able to grow my social media following, doing really fun partnerships with other businesses that already had that following. And anybody that asks me what to do, that's one of the first things I recommend is finding a way to get your name out with other businesses, but in a cool way that it actually provides something great for customers and isn't just a selfish need. It's rewiring that.
I mean, that's an amazing lesson, because I think people are constantly looking, okay, well, if you look at the majority of social media advice on the internet, it's all about reels and hashtags and timing your posts. You and I have talked about, especially with your journey, right? It's most of your engagements from people that you've actually met in person.
Yeah.
Right? And it's that's kind of like this. It's we partner with people who've got similar brands, and especially for this, where it's it does you no good to have a follower in France. As much as it'd be cool to have followers in France, I mean, it's really important to you to have followers who are around your restaurant, because otherwise they're not going to come. So for you to actually have in-person relationships with people, social media, think about the word just social, right? It doesn't mean that we're just online. Right?
Exactly.
Social means we could actually meet people and develop our following that way. And for a local business, those local connections are everything.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's
and that's community building.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
That's community building.
Didn't you?
Exactly.
You did I thought it was a trilogy. Didn't you do a waffle beer?
We've
What
done
was that way?
I've made beer with 5 different breweries.
Oh, awesome.
Trillium was the biggest one, obviously, because Trillium just has such a huge name attached to it. But we did a waffle coffee beer. It was an imperial stout, and then we barrel aged 2 different versions. So for 3 years we did that stout. 2 of the years we had a barrel age release. So 1 year, so we took the beer, barrel aged in the Woodford Reserve barrel, and released it out to the company, because we used to set up there. And so I got to know JC, the owner, great guy, and he will tell you at the beginning, when I was just getting to know them, I would send them an email every time they would do a pastry stout, be like, waffles would be good. But it was good. It was a fantastic beer. It was a great collaboration. We did Revival Brewing when they were open. We did 12 Guns when they were opening. Buttonwoods we've done a couple of years. It's just, again, it's a fun way to bring your brand out to the community to start off.
Yeah,
with,
it's great. It's all about community collaboration.
Exactly.
And that's also when Brian and I were thinking about doing this podcast with Shane, Brian was like, look at the Instagram following. One thing I've noticed a lot is that it seems like, especially community restaurants with people in charge who've done a good job in the community, their following is usually pretty good. I've found that following doesn't necessarily translate into business, because I've had at least 3 companies, I could name you, I won't do it to embarrass people, 3 local businesses who had this amazing social media following, and they would post and the place would light up, and they're all closed. So it's really important. How do you translate your following into business?
But you gotta have a great product, right? You gotta have a great
You have to
product.
have everything. You can't just because I think that there's things like dogs, good-looking food.
Yeah.
They just do well on social
Right.
media. It's there needs to be
Yeah.
method and all that other stuff.
Yeah, and again, it might bring people in that first time, right? You may get some likes, but if you don't make them feel a part of it, like they want to come back, I mean, a one-time transaction is not going to keep you in business. Our goal is that's social media is a support factor. It's not the driving factor of your business. And if people treat it like that, that's why they're going to fail. Our main component is here, connecting with people, doing the hard work. That's going out of your space, going out of your comfort zone to build a brand, to build a community, to connect with people.
Well, what you meant to say was a connected community keeps the lights on.
That's a connected community keeps the lights on.
Allow us to
sounds like a blood force
allow us
fact.
to use verbiage to create the atmosphere.
I mean, it's so great because we talk about social media all the time, and it's like, well, social media, you can sell on social media, which we're going to talk about today with our group. But like, it's also like, it's almost like your digital portfolio. It's like, here's us.
Yeah.
And it's just another way of brand building, right? And it's like, yeah, people will follow it more because it's authentic. We've been there, we did business there, we know people who know that place. It's cool to be connected to that, and it's just this other way that maybe isn't, like, I don't think that part of social media is taught enough. You know, this idea that there's actually like there's an in-person component to being social on social media.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I love it. Love
Right.
it.
Well, Shane, I know you got a hard stop on us.
No, that's fine. Well,
but
if I could share one story, maybe,
so I was going to have you wrap, and then,
Yeah.
whatever you would like to, whatever you'd like the audience to know about you, and then a story would be great, and then we'll wrap on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just really going to talk about the community aspect and what, we're so disconnected, right, in life. Even though we're all connected on social media, everything is so busy and noisy, and where I think we all feel so anxious and disconnected, where people wonder, why don't you have TVs up in your restaurant? That's very intentional, and one of the things we are trying to do is to bring people back. We have the big tables. We want people to come and break bread together again. And so we have every Friday we do karaoke, and we do a lot of fun stuff. But karaoke specifically, there's this group of people that they consider them oddballs, people that necessarily don't have a place. Where there's now, I think we're up to 18 people on a text chain. They spend dinners together. They spend New Year's Eve together. People that came here, that met other people, that built this community where every Friday they're here. They text each other. They help each other out outside of the business. That they just found a home here. They said, we've never felt like we belonged anywhere before, and now we found this home. And that right there is what we're doing. That's what Burgundian's about. That's what we're trying to create here. Is anything beyond the product, anything beyond just a restaurant. Is we're creating a home where people can come and feel like they belong. And if you can truly not be so distracted by everything else and your revenue, and obviously those are important, but if you can, in this environment, this restaurant, if you can create that, you can be part of that. It's hard work. You have to be intentional about it. You're going to go far, and you're going to stay in business.
Authenticity, community, hospitality, all in that one story.
Yeah.
So where are we right now? So let's maybe talk to the camera. Where are we? How do we find you? How do we follow you?
Yes. So everything, again, we want people to adapt the brand. So we are Burgundians. BURGUNDIANS. We are Burgundians. That's our website.
You're watching on YouTube.
That's
it's right in the bottom
it's
right.
right in the
corner.
bottom. Click like, subscribe, and our handles on Facebook and Instagram. Those are We Are Burgundians. Everything is about that. We are in downtown Attleboro, 55 Park Street, Massachusetts. We are not that far from Rhode Island, people. It's not that far. It is maybe 7 minutes from the border. There's no passport checks.
A little bit.
Bridges.
It's a little bit farther for our followers from France, but
Yes.
they disconnected early when
Yeah,
we started
they did,
making fun of France.
Good stuff. All right, Shane,
Yes.
awesome. Always great to see you.
Same
Thanks
here.
for joining us
Same
here
here,
today.
guys.
3
Absolutely.
blunt force facts for today with Shane and the Burgundian. Number 1's on hospitality. We always come back home. Number 2, authenticity breeds loyalty. And our 3rd blunt force fact for today is all about community. A connected community will keep the lights on. I'm Brian Fauci.
Patrick Marino,
And Shane Matlock for Burgundian.
Thank you.
thank you.
Merci. There you go.
Bon voyage.
Finish it with some French.
We're done. We're out. We out. Thanks, brother.
That was great.
Absolutely.
Man.
Really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
My
really,
pleasure.
really cool.
My
You
pleasure.
done did good. Not bad for a white guy.
A lot of